Bravemaker Show is hosted by Talia Jackson and Talia Jackson. Thanks for tuning in. It's showtime.
What is up, everybody? Happy Friday, TGIF. This is Tony Gapperstone coming at you for the Bravemaker Show. This is one of my favorite ways to end my week, is talking to creative people from all over the world. I am an actor and a writer-director, and my pronouns are he, him, his. I am located in Redwood City in the Bay Area. I'm in my little studio. It's a black studio with the words Bravemaker around. I am a Caucasian man with brown hair and a little bit of scruff. And I love talking and doing the show with my good friend, Talia Jackson.
Hey, Tony, this is a fantastic way to end the week. I love talking to filmmakers and creatives. I'm coming to you from Dublin, California, in the East Bay of California, and I'm in my studio in front of a green plant wall with some monarch butterflies, and I'm an African-American woman, and I'm sitting in a Will Power chair, and I'm rocking a little She-Hulk look today. I'm an actor and comic book writer, and I'm all about that comic book life, so that's what I got going on, and my pronouns are he, she, they.
I love it. So if you're new to our show, we're here every Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We always start our show with this inclusivity, because Bravemaker exists to elevate brave stories for justice, diversity, and inclusion. And before we bring our special guest, we encourage you, if you're watching live, go ahead and say hello if you'd like. I see that Carl is here and waiting. Looking forward to this. I love that. And we also start with this one question every week. We do this for ourselves, but you can also chime in too. We ask this question: how are you braving your way toward your creative goals? Because this idea that our dreams just fall into our lap, right? That's not true. We have to work hard and work years sometimes. If you want to run a marathon, you just got to put one foot in front of the other. It's one step at a time, 1 mile at a time. So Talia and I always encourage you to participate in this opening session. But Talia, how have you been braving your way toward your creative goals this week?
I have been taking some virtual vacations off to Baker Beach in San Francisco. There are some phenomenal videos on YouTube. Put in Baker Beach, San Francisco, and it'll allow you to watch in real time the sun rising and the beautiful Golden Gate Bridge in the back. And you got dogs and birds in it. And the audio is absolutely spectacular if you like the sound of the ocean waves. It's just very relaxing. And I take off to Baker Beach and I write and I meditate and I just sit and be still and enjoy the ambiance. And that is how I'm braving my way this week. What about you, Tony?
I love that. We'll put that link in the chat for those of you who want to do that. I love that you are inspiring yourself to write with some great music and visuals. Myself, I have a feature film in pre-production right now, so we're set to go into production in June. And I have been reaching out to actors, so we started casting this week via self-tape. Our production team sent out sides to all of our selects, which has been really exciting. We're looking for a production designer. We have failed in finding a assistant director. I don't know why. We keep finding people, interviewing people, they fall out, it's not working. So I'm braving my way this week by doing it my dang self. I started scheduling this film. I've done a bunch of shorts and commercial projects and things. I'm like, okay, I wanted to have a true AD, but because it's COVID and we're a micro budget film, I'm gonna save some money from hiring an assistant director, and we're gonna lean on our production team, producers, and we're gonna schedule the thing ourselves. So we're gonna be in production. I wrote a role for Talia. It's super exciting. So I'm braving my way by doing it myself. Sometimes you got to stop waiting and do it yourself. So that's how I'm braving my way. Encourage you to go after your goals one step at a time. It's a marathon, and that's what we're here to encourage you to do.
Yeah.
Yes. So today, our special guests are the producers of a new documentary. And I got to watch it. It was so great. It's available on video on demand. We're going to hear all about it. And they are the producers of More Than Miyagi, the Pat Morita story. Welcome, Talia Jackson and Oscar Alvarez. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, right on. We're going to
Absolutely,
jump right
yeah.
in.
Yeah, we're going to jump right in. So if we could first have you both introduce yourselves and how you've made your way into the, actually, before you do that, where are you coming from?
Kelly, go ahead.
So I'm coming from Los Angeles, North Hollywood to be specific. I grew up in Wisconsin I grew up in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, and then went to school at the UW and at Madison, and then basically traveled around the world doing modeling for probably 15 years. And then I guess I went back to Wisconsin for a few years. And then once I had kids when they were 6 and 4, we moved out to LA. So we've been here like 12 years now, I think.
Right on.
Okay. Yeah. So we're all pretty familiar with some cold weather. Tony's from Chicago. I'm from Pennsylvania.
Oh.
You're from Wisconsin. And Oscar, you've just spent some time in Canada. So we're all happy to be in California, right? In the sunshine again.
Yeah.
And then Oscar, yeah, where are you coming from today?
I'm coming from Burbank. Yes, I was in Montreal for the last 7 months. My daughter's shooting her CW show, but I'm home now, thank God. And like, not that it was beautiful, but it's just the weather. It's so cold there. So I'm happy I'm back here with the sun. But I'm here in my home with my little makeshift studio here. And I'm a producer. That's it.
Well, before you jump in and answer about More Than Miyagi, I had to stop and recognize that we had both of your daughters on the show last year. So Talia and Isabella are really good friends. They grew up in doing shows together. They're both in their late teens and on their own respective shows right now. So I thought it's so fun that their parents, are producing together, and Talia and Isabella are on episode 72 of our podcast. So we'll throw that in the chat, in the show notes for those of you who are listening or watching on the replay. That is so cool. You are a true entertainment industry family. I love that. Congrats. That's not easy to do.
No, it's not. And I think that's why, Kelly and my wife and the whole family, we all click because we have the same common goal, and it's great.
Yeah, and that's how we originally met, was on a pilot that both of our children played sisters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So cool.
That is very cool. And I got to meet Isabella on set with Tony for film Humble Pastor Will. So this is all very cool how we're all connected. So I'm a huge comic book fan. And so I love to ask our guests about their origin stories. Kelly, you told us a little bit about where you're from. Can you tell us about your origin story and how it has uniquely prepared you for the work that you're doing in filmmaking today?
Yeah, it's been a long, long road. Like I said, I first started out just doing modeling and commercials, and I worked, all over the world doing it. And I had that background. And then when my kids were young, I definitely saw talent in both of them. So I decided to make the move to LA and get them kind of starting into acting careers. And, along the way, I had a lot of people tell me that I should basically just work on my own career and just work on being a producer and, work hard on my own career. Don't focus on the kids. But I always knew, and I could always visualize and see that I would end up producing through my kids, and we would do it together. And it's just amazing to me to see that when you visualize something like that 10 years later, here we're doing it pretty much, because we formed a production company, and we're like actively pitching concepts like to Netflix and stuff now. But I'm doing and I'm sure something will get picked up soon. And so like I'm doing producing through meeting Oscar or through, you know, my kids and them having shows and pitching, you know, show concepts that they would lead in. So that's kind of how I got to this point, was just managing my kids' careers to the point that they're at.
So cool how we all have a different entry story. Everybody has a different, how you break in. Nobody has the same break-in story. And, you know, I met Oscar and Stacy, your wife, in June of 2019 when we had our first ever film fest. And Isabella was the star of Collisions. And I just love that we've been able to stay connected ever since. And it's really cool to watch how things are growing. But anything else you want to add to your origin story, Oscar?
Yeah. So I started off in the industry as an actor and got a taste of all that, and, you know, studied Meisner and the whole 9 yards. And then I had an opportunity through a friend of mine that actually was working for David O. Russell, film director. And I went to go work for David, and I was only supposed to be there for like maybe 6 weeks, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. He was working on a documentary at the time called Soldier's Pay. Because they were going to do a re-release of Three Kings, which was one of his first films. And I got a chance to do that and worked on a doc, which was cool, learned a lot. And then David said, hey, do you want to stay? I'm ready to work on my next feature film. And I think he was doing a film at the time. He was starting to set up at Universal Pictures with Vince Vaughn. And he said, stay. Vince had just finished Wedding Crashers, so they were working on that. And I was like, wow, yeah, I'd love to. And then I stayed there for 4 years. So that was like my film school. I never went to film school. I started as an actor, but I was always interested behind the camera. And then when I got that opportunity, I took it, and I learned so much working with David. He's fantastic. And, you know, was always there to teach and kind of give us advice and so forth. So he was great. And then I went off on my own. I started producing and, you know, started doing documentaries and different things and short films. And, you know how it is, Tony, you just hustle. So
hustle.
The hustle. It's exactly like Kelly just said. It's like, it's this long process. So for me, it was, I think there was a moment, I think at the time I had completely walked away from acting, but I still had a commercial agent. There's still like agents that are like, well, why are you going to leave? You know? And I was like, I got to do this. And it's an opportunity. And I think I had an opportunity. I went out on an audition. At the time, it was when the industry was shifting and they were looking for real families. So there was a Walmart commercial, and I went in and I auditioned. It was like this family doing Walmart, and they liked what I did. And then they go, do you have a family? And I go, yeah, a wife and 2 kids. And they're like, and how old are they? And they're like, oh my God, can you bring them in? Anyways, long story short, we ended up booking that commercial as a family. Who would have thought? And my kids worked on the commercial, and they fell in love with acting, and that's how they basically started. And I think Isabella booked like 4 or 5 commercials after that, and like it was just like a snowball effect. And it was that thing. And then I kind of took a back seat, and I go, I'm just going to produce, do that, let the kids do acting, just like Kelly said, and kind of let's go and let's learn from that. And you know, you meet all these wonderful people. Like, one of the things that I have to just say in this industry is, you hear a lot of bad things. Like, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, how can you get your kids in the film industry and this and that? I have to say that our experience and the people that we've met, Kelly being one of them, has been positive. Even the show that Isabella's working on right now on CW, The Republic of Sarah, the people are fantastic. So we've been very fortunate and lucky that we've had nothing but positive experience. And there's some really great people. And I think you don't talk about that a lot. Like, people want to know, these kids, and let's talk about, you know, and the abuse and the drugs and it's like, well, what about the good things? What about the Ashton Kutchers that like are actually investing their money and they're smart, and they don't talk about that stuff. But there's a lot of great people that are in it, and you gotta, it's like in anything, I think you have a circle of people that you surround yourself, and you want to be with good people. And that's what you try to do. So I'm just
speaking our language. I love it.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
more of that.
People. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And I haven't really seen anything bad in our industry. In modeling, it's rampant, but like, I don't hear much. I don't hear really anything bad about our industry for the kids, at least. Well, except, yeah, there's some stuff. There's some.
there's, but you know what? It's everywhere. Everywhere.
Yeah.
It's where you find it. But if you want to rise above it, and part of the reason, I remember we talked about this with Talia and Isabella.
Yeah.
All the shade that is thrown toward kid actors. There's a lot out there, and there is a paradigm or an odds, right, that might work against them, but you can rise above that. If you've got people who care about you and invest in your life and want to tell good stories, then you can rise above. That's our hope, right? But I love that perspective too. I'm with you.
And there's definitely a shift, like in the last probably 2 years, right, Oscar? Like, they used to never even put a kid on a poster or put their name on the poster. There were never kids with CAA or ICM or UTA, and they're all recognizing now the importance, of kids and what they can do in this industry.
Kid producers.
Yeah, kid producers as teenagers, or even barely. Yeah.
I just found out through my daughter. She was telling me that new show Generation that's out.
17-year-olds created it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
no way.
Yeah. So there's all of this. There's definitely a shift, and I think it's amazing. I was telling my kids, if there was ever a moment that you want to be in the industry, be an actor, be a producer, I go, this is it. Like, it's now, right now.
Yeah, and teen actors are asking for producing credits and getting it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What would you guys both? I'm sorry, Tony. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I want to get to the trailer next.
Okay. What would you say to parents who are thinking of putting their kids into acting and they have reservations about that? Like, how would you advise them to have a positive experience going in?
Go ahead, Kelly, if you want to.
Kelly, yeah.
I think the most important thing is who your team is, like who you hire in the beginning, put around you, because there are still some, bad agents and bad managers, not anywhere near what there used to be, but it's all about like the team and who, pass around and get some good, agents and managers and attorneys. Well, you don't need an attorney in the beginning for actors, but it's more just getting a good team around you and then getting good referrals for acting coaches. Because, like, for example, we were with an acting coach for like 2 years, and I thought that was a good acting coach, but I realized like after 2 years that I probably wasted 2 years of their career because that acting coach was not good for them or for anybody really. So I think it's really important to get with the right acting coach in the beginning as well. But yeah, get a good agent and manager. And other than that, I don't really see anything. Well, just stay with your child, stay around them for sure. Don't send them to set with somebody that you don't know well, or still keep an eye on them. It's a lot. There's a lot less problems these days on sets, but it still does happen.
It's common sense, I think. It's all however you watch your child at home and all of that. I don't know. For me, I agree with everything Kelly said about the team and all of that. I think one thing I will be honest with anyone that wants to put their kid in the industry. Now, granted, with all the positivity and all of that, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So typically when parents ask me, hey, I see this promise in my child and blah, 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 and I go, that's wonderful. I go, but let's put little Jimmy aside. Are you ready? What do you mean? Right. Because you need to understand that when there's a child actor, the parent has to come along because he's a minor or she's a minor. So be ready. You have to have the time, the energy. It's a business. And you have to have money allocated for that business to take off. Not everybody, I think Tony said it best. He goes, it's really interesting to hear everyone's career paths and what you do. And I know kids that, have come to on pilot season, booked their first job, and boom, they were up. And then I've heard other people that haven't booked anything for 5-10 years. Kelly, how long did it take for your kids to actually book series? Like, it's hard.
Yeah, Talia went 10 years and didn't book anything. And then she booked Family Reunion. So you got to be ready to be persistent, because the chances of it happening early is very slim. I would not want to read. I would not want to do it again when I think about it. Like if someone told me ahead of time, I don't think yeah, when I look back, I'm like, oh, I don't know how we stayed in it, but I'm glad we're here and we put that many years into it, but it's tough.
Yeah.
You're going to go a long time and get nothing.
That's what I would say to parents. You got to be ready to go and fight. If you're really going to be there to support, it's not, the path could not be as simple as what you think it is. It's doable, but you got to work hard. I mean, it's like you tell that to sports guys, it's the same thing, right? You can't make it in major leagues unless you work hard.
And one thing I learned too that I thought in the beginning that I was wrong about is I thought that maybe relationships kind of helped. You know, you book jobs and it really is not. The casting directors, you know, having a relationship with them doesn't. I mean, you want to make them like you and respect your work, but it really is going to come down to the work and if you fit the role.
I worked with Loretta on a couple different projects, Kelly. So I love Loretta. Yeah. And she's executive producing an animated show that one of my co-writers and I are working on, and we are having the hardest time. We're pitching it with Loretta Devine, and it's still hard. You could be Loretta Devine, Emmy winner, Broadway star, blah, blah, all these things. And it's not easy for anybody. So with that, let's talk about your film, because I know this has a huge backstory of how it came to be. I loved it. Well, we're going to encourage everybody to watch the film on your own time. If you haven't already, we sent it out to all of our patrons and our subscribers, but let's take a watch of the trailer. This is called More Than Miyagi. Oh, is there any sound coming out? Hold on a second.
No sound.
Pat Morita. Mr. Pat Morita.
Is there still no sound coming out?
We got it.
No.
I hear it, yeah.
Hold on. Stand by, you guys. You know, producing and hosting at the same time, the lovely challenges here. Stand by.
Now all of a sudden Pat Morita. Mr. Pat Morita. Oh, yeah.
Pat Morita, ladies and gentlemen.
Lenny Bruce's mother named him the hip nip, but he hung on because now all of a sudden he had an angle.
He would tend to do the same show over again. And then he couldn't figure out why he wasn't getting laughs.
I don't think he paid much attention to the rules of the game. You know, kind of did what he wanted to do. He really embraced the things that many of us run away from. He ran to it.
He opened for Victor Moan, Connie Stevens, and Red Fox, who put him on his show.
He was just a lovely, lovely man.
Pat went on and became a huge star.
And he created one of the iconic characters in American cinema.
One thing I learned with comics is they were actually some of the most unhappy, tortured people, and their comedy comes from pain.
I mean, he was in a cast for like 9 years, from his knees to like his neck for his childhood.
The day he gets out, he walks into a war.
He had a lot of inner demons. He struggled a lot with depression, and he was drinking too much. I think he was doing too much drugs.
He was drinking so much that I went to the line producer and said, I'm scared to death. He's going to fall off a cliff.
And he was stumbling and he fell flat on his face. That was when it really, really hit home and he realized, I've got a big problem.
That entire chapter of my life changed me forever.
I grew up on The Karate Kid like so many people did, and I absolutely loved this movie so much. I felt like I got to know Pat, as I'm sure you did. So let's talk about this, especially as it comes on the heels of our country dealing with AAPI, racism, and all of the challenges that the Asian community are going in. I think it was a perfect film for our time. How did it come to be? How did you get your hands on the Pat Morita story?
Yeah.
Well, we had my director, Kevin Derrick, we had worked on a project called The Real Miyagi. And people always get it confused, so let me just clarify. So that was called The Real Miyagi. This is More Than Miyagi. The Real Miyagi was based on the sensei master Fumio Demura, who is a stunt double, and he was a stunt double for Pat Morita in the original Karate Kids. So we ended up doing his documentary film. We ended up selling it to Netflix, And when we were, Kevin and I at the end, when we were putting together all the final paperwork for Netflix, we had to get talent releases signed off from everyone. And I didn't have Pat's yet because Pat's not with us anymore. And I needed to find out who was the estate holder and this and that. And I tracked down Pat's last wife, Evelyn Guerrero Merida, and she was in Las Vegas, where his home is. So I ended up getting a hold of her finally, and we drove down. We met her, and she was wonderful. And she signed off on everything. And that's when she started talking to us about this manuscript that Pat was writing before his death. I think he was writing for the last 10 years of his life. And he almost finished it, but didn't quite finish it. But it was pretty thorough. And we heard all these amazing stories. Like, I know Pat from Karate Kid, just like the rest of the world, but I remember Pat from Happy Days. And then I started reading this manuscript, and I didn't really know that he was into stand-up comedy, and that, you know, this problem had happened and that and that. And I started seeing all these struggles, and I was like blown away. And Kevin and I left, and we ended up talking about it. We said, why don't we ask Evelyn if we could do his life story? And that's when we ended up talking to Evelyn. And we asked her, and she said, oh my God, that would be fabulous. And she gave us permission, because we had to get permission from her. And that's how we started.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is absolutely amazing.
I think the manuscript stuff, the fact that he got to tell his own life in a lot of ways was pretty phenomenal. Even the way that it ends. I mean, I totally enjoyed it, but I choked up at the end. Just those very last words that he said. It was really powerful to also humanize this icon. He's such an icon, you know, in pop culture for 3 generations. Now Cobra Kai, you know, his story and his history lives on. But I thought it was just really phenomenal to recognize the industry and the stereotypes and the things that he, as a actor, as an entertainer, had to endure. I think you really pulled those out, and I really appreciated that. I'm wondering about those kind of conversations that it's surfacing, what talkbacks and things that you're hearing. How is that impacting you, Kelly? Do you want to talk about that at all?
Oh, sorry. Just can you rephrase that? I have a little puppy running.
Yeah, just thinking about the conversations that it's surfacing regarding Hollywood stereotyping and racial insensitivities and injustices that are perpetuated, you know, through film, right? All the things he had to endure on set, and the ways that he had to take on different people's, you know, perspectives on what an Asian man or Asian character and role should be.
Yeah, we've definitely come a long way, but still have a long way to go on that. It was interesting even for me to see what it was like for him back then. So I enjoyed, learning about his story as well, because I was a big fan of Happy Days. I of course came from Wisconsin and visited often my aunt and uncle who lived down the street from where they actually filmed Happy Days. And, I think we've definitely made strides. I mean, when my kids, for example, started acting like at 6 and 7, there were no roles for mixed kids at all. So their only choices was to go out for African-American roles. And they were light skinned, so they could never get any roles. And that is one of the reasons why my daughter never booked. I'd say about 3-4 years ago, my son got a role as a mixed boy. And when we saw that role, we were just like ecstatic, because it was like unheard of to see a white and Black parent. And so it slowly started just in with their ethnicity, there started to be more roles. But there's still the stereotypical problems that, the big execs at the studios, they see families a certain way, or, Talia's actually dealing with that on her show right now. She had a lot of backlash that she shouldn't be in the show because she was too white for it. Her skin was too light. And, back when she was up for a show a couple years ago, she lost it, we were told, from the creators of the show, because even though they all wanted her, they couldn't convince, the exec at the studio that even though her skin color was lighter, she could still be the child of these two parents. So that was just 3 years ago. So And then we're dealing with it right now in this show too. It's gotten a little better, but you know, I can't even imagine what it was like for him back then when I just look at my own kids and, you know, how it's changed just from them being in the industry, but yet we're still like struggling.
I know it's 2021, guys. It's like,
yeah,
how much longer do you have to wait to like be able? It's tough. It's tough. One of we had a great interview with Isai Morales, and he said, "Of course, I can relate to him. You know, same thing. He struggled as a Latino actor to find these great roles and all that, and it was tough to find that. You know, it's a constant struggle for sure.
It is. Yeah.
I really thought what Pat captured in the storytelling was so powerful and incredible because he had to believe so strongly, so unwaveringly in himself in order to even do what he did, to be a stand-up comedic, to become an actor, and to persevere.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely amazing. And he was intent on telling the story, and the story came out. Even after he passed, even after it was just sitting, and look how a series of events came together with the real Miyagi and you going to see his wife. And now we're sitting here talking about More Than Miyagi. We're sharing his story as an actor, as someone who, I use a wheelchair now, you know, as someone who has had to persevere and knows there is going to be tremendous obstacles for someone like myself to be successful as an actor. Watching that documentary was like, all right, we all have to face our demons. And if it's something that you want, you just go for it. And I thought that was absolutely incredible. The way you guys captured that story. So Oscar, can you talk a little bit about, you know, how you decided to share the manuscript? How did you want viewers to really receive what he wanted to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the credit of putting the whole thing together goes to our director, Kevin Derrick.
Mm-hmm.
He directed it, he edited it. I mean, he's super talented. And I've been fortunate to work with him in the past, so I know what he's capable of doing. But it was important for him and for us to really, we're kind of like investigators, you know, when you do documentaries, you have like a series of questions and you ask the same questions over and over to everyone that you interview, because you want to know what is the truth. Is this true? Is this not true? When you're asking 40 different people the same question and they're all saying the same thing, then you know, okay, because you know, you're not in the same environment. Like you're interviewing everyone in their own private, you know, place and so forth. We didn't have like a day where everybody came in. We went to them. So and some people know each other, some people don't know each other. So nobody knew what they were answering. So when you ask the question of 40 different people and they're telling you this, and then you go, okay, this is accurate. And then when you ask a question and people are telling you different answers, then you're like, oh, maybe this isn't very accurate. So we made sure that everything that we put in there was either in the manuscript or we went through it and we asked questions, and that it was the truth. Because I think the biggest thing for me, like people always say, what do you want people to take from this documentary? And I think even for Kevin, it was like, we just want to show his courage. We want to and tell the truth. You know, I think if Pat's looking down, I think he's smiling because I think he is happy that we're telling the story the way it's supposed to be told, in the most honest, truthful way. That's why even the ending, kudos to Kevin, we didn't end it with like, hey, it was all great. It was like, no, it was hard to see the end, but that was the truth of his ending. And that's why we finished it that way. And Kevin didn't want to end it on a high note when it wasn't. It was like, it wasn't like that, you know? So I hope that people see his courage. Like you said, everything that he endured and what he had to go through, racism and, health stuff and personal stuff, the internment camps. And it was mind blowing. And still to think that back then in the 70s and the 80s, what he achieved being a person of color, this guy was a pioneer. He was ahead of his time, and he's completely paved the way, I think, for, Asian American actors and as a whole. Like, I mean, I don't know, to me, he's a legend. So
yes,
absolutely.
Can you talk about the process? So we just had a documentary forum, our very first with Bravemaker, and we had some Sundance filmmakers and some Oscar nominated filmmakers. And it was just so cool. Again, everybody has a different story about how they get it made. And you had some history with the Real Miyagi documentary, but can you talk about this specific one, just the time and what did you learn? We always want to encourage our listeners and our viewers to get through those obstacles. So what were some of the hardest things that you had to overcome, and how did you do it? And what did you learn through it?
I'll let Kelly talk about this, but I'll in respect, I'll talk about like the budget and the money stuff, but Kelly, you can talk about the whole, just paying people down or producing.
Yeah, that's the main thing is, well, I think for any film, let alone a documentary, because that's more personal and people telling their personal stories, you know, in this case, telling what they personally knew about Pat. It's just, I feel like I've done a few feature films, like helped some in trying to get people attached. And I feel like this was definitely harder. And then you also have to approve it through PR a lot, especially if they're actors themselves, which is what we were dealing with. So I found this to be quite difficult to get the interviews. I mean, I got Henry and I got Ralph, and they were pretty tough to get. Ralph was extremely tough to get. We had to jump through a lot of hoops. It was fortunate that we had, at the time, the same agency as Ralph. So we were able to work, you know, with his agent a little bit. But it's, yeah, like there are a lot of other people we would have probably liked to have had, but it's just, and the managers take forever to get back to you. And, you know, they're standing in the way sometimes of you don't know if the message is ever getting to the person that you want, especially when you're dealing. I mean, it's a lot easier if they're not like already actors in Hollywood and doing well. So I feel like that was very tough. Not for, I don't think for the Happy Days cast, but for other people that have worked with him, it was pretty tough.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I definitely agree 100%. Scheduling and all that, that's the toughest thing for a doc. So talking about the budget and all that, you know, a lot of people, it's funny because we rolled off the Real Miyagi. They're like, oh my gosh, a lot of people would say, you know, the Real Miyagi did so great. You sold it to Netflix, blah, 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 you know. And it's like, even now people go, so why isn't More Than Miyagi on Netflix? And I go, great question.
Yeah.
Like we're trying to get it, but it's like, you know, maybe it doesn't fit their lineup for whatever reason. Like you just never know. Just because you did something great before doesn't mean that the road is open and it's like everything is going to just fall into place.
Yeah.
Are certain things easier? Sure. But it's not that easy. Like even raising money for More Than Miyagi, like that was it took a process. And, you know, and then we got a little bit here, there. And then I ended up going to one of my producers that helped me out with another short film. And then he saw it, you know, because he's Asian American. He goes, wow, I love Pat, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, there's always, you know, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Greg and Cindy Lai. So thank you, Greg and Cindy. But the thing is, there's a struggle with trying to, you know, put together any film. And I guess for anyone that's watching and anyone that's trying to do this, it's just never stop. Never, you know, don't stop doing what you love, or don't stop doing your story because you think you hit a brick wall or something. Like you got to move forward. Even with this, I remember in the beginning, we raised a little bit of money, and then I told Kevin, I go, let's just start shooting. Let's start getting as many people as we can. And graciously, we got Isai Morales and we got Martin Cove and different people like that. And then we started putting together little snippet clips. You can even see them on YouTube. And it's like, we started showing other investors like, hey, look, we have so-and-so. And they're like, oh, wow. And then people would come in. So it's like, if we wouldn't have done that and started shooting, then we wouldn't have gotten the rest of the money. So you've got to keep pushing.
Keep moving. I would have this, I say the same thing, is that to any, you know, young filmmakers or new filmmakers is to not get caught up in just like the script, you know, and you have to be making like baby steps in the direction that you want to go with it, you know, see the end point to where you want to go, and just be making baby steps, even if it's like, let me form a corporation. Let me send one email today to somebody in the documentary world, or let me try to get a meeting with an attorney that handles indie, independent writers or directors, but just to be making steps in the direction of where you want to go, and don't get caught up in all the obstacles, but just like keep moving forward and just baby steps, small steps.
Yep.
Stay proactive, right?
Yeah.
We say brave your way. You got to brave your way one step at a time every day. A friend of mine said, we need to redefine our success and failure ratio. And the only thing that's going to make you a failure is if you don't do something every day to go after your film, your goal, your whatever it is, every day, something. It's a phone call, it's an email. That's success. And 10 years of doing it, something's going to happen, right?
Right.
Exactly.
I love what you guys are both saying. Keep pushing, keep moving forward. And it's perfect, this documentary, to be sharing that story, because this is someone whose story is being told from, he's passed on and his story is being told. Somehow the universe aligned for us to receive this story. And it's so amazing. So yeah, never give up. Keep on pushing until the end to share your stories. And now Brave Maker, we're all about sharing like brave stories. And this is an incredible story that you guys have brought to life for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show today. I want to shout out to Alex Todd, who's producing with us and grabbing some great quotes. And those will be out on our social media later this week with some other little snippets from today. But go in our comments, or if you're listening on the replay on the podcast, they have a link tree with every single way that you can possibly find the Pat Morita More Than Miyagi story. Please go and support indie filmmakers and support this documentary. It's so good, especially if you're watching Cobra Kai or if you grew up watching Karate Kid. Those are two good reasons. But if you want to be someone who knows entertainment history, you want to know what it's like to make your way, and you care about justice, racial justice in entertainment in Hollywood, this is another great reason to watch this film. Super inspiring. Thank you both, Kelly and Oscar. Hope we can stay connected. And don't go away, because we always end our show with the Brave Faves. So stand by for our Faves of the Week.
Brave Faves. TV shows, films, books, songs, technology, clothing, podcast, food, and more. These are a few of our favorite people, places, and things. Brave Faves.
All right, this is our lightning round. What you got, Christina? What's your favorite of the week?
My fave for the week is Aqualung's Strange and Beautiful album. If you've never played this album from start to finish, do yourself a favor. Have a little album listening party. You can do it at Baker Beach too if you got that option. You know, throw in a little Baker Beach ambiance and play the album. There's so many singles on it. It's got released over a decade ago, and it's just timeless and magical is how I would describe it. So that is my Brave Fave.
Right on. Kelly, what's your Brave Fave of the week?
Well, I'm going to do a plug for my son's show. Both kids release shows this week, but my son's show is TBS Chad. I heard that today was #1 in cable. It is such a funny show, from created by an actor and an actress from Saturday Night Live. It's called Chad. It's TBS, and her name is Nasim Pedred. It is hilarious. You have to watch. Oh my gosh, there it is.
Right on. That's fun. I love learning about new shows. Chad on TBS.
Yes.
Cool. And who does your son play in the show?
He plays Joey.
Okay, cool.
I think he's in the trailer, actually. I think he comes after the scene, but yeah, it's hilarious. You guys, you'll love it.
Okay, right on. Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We'll definitely, and I love her as a comedian. That actress from Saturday Night Live is hilarious. Oh my gosh, so good. All right, what do you have, Oscar?
And by the way, she's Iranian. She's Persian, just like the director.
Yeah.
So, yeah, right. Which I think is great. I mean, she's doing what she's doing. I'm going to recommend this book that I love. It's called The Four Agreements, and it's by Don Miguel Ruiz, and he's a Mexican author. So you kind of want to do a shift in your life and kind of a reset. I think it's a great book. So
I love
cool. The
that.
Four
All
Agreements. Right on.
Yeah.
We're rolling. We love books. And please tell me The Power of Now. That's like our most faved book, I think, from Christina and many other guest on the show, Power of Now. Sounds like the Four Agreements would be something very similar to that. Well, my brave fave of the week is Michaela Cole's I May Destroy You. I just found out I moved and we got new Wi-Fi and I realized, oh my gosh, I get HBO Max now. This show wrecked me. It was so good. I May Destroy You. I'm so inspired. Michaela Cole is a genius. She's brilliant. Please watch this show. It's about sexual assault, so it is a very sensitive topic, but the way that she does it, the acting, the writing, it is truly a piece of art that I absolutely loved. So that's my brave fave of the week. All right, well, that's our show today. Guests, don't go away because we'd love to hang out with you afterwards. But if you are watching, I want to say thank you for tuning in live. It's so cool. By the way, there was people that I didn't even get a chance to say hi to, especially Stasia. Hi, Stasia. We're so glad that you were able to join. Other people, Carl, joining in. By the way, earlier, Robertino said, thank you for telling and sharing Marita's story. I had no idea he went through so much excellent work. Suerte. We were going through so many things. I didn't get a chance to bring all you in today, but we see you. Thank you so much for watching us live and listening. And please share this on your social media. Share this. Isabella was watching too. Look at all these people. You all are awesome. Thanks so much. And somebody, I think it was Robertino, even commented about the chips in the back of Kelly's head. Wanted to eat some chips or something like that. So we see you. We're so grateful. Bravemaker is a 501c3 nonprofit. Please go to our website, become a patron, become a donor. Do you know that everything that we do is because people are generous? We want to support the arts. We want to create and tell stories that impact culture. We do this show every week because we, Christina and myself, we love learning and we're creating our own content and we want inspiration to do it, but we also hope this is inspiring to you too. So if it is, pick up your phone, text the word Bravemaker to 44321, and you can give $25, $5, $100, whatever you want helps us do this. In fact, all the gear that we have, Christina and I, with all this cool gear, is because you support us. So thank you so much for everything that you all do. We're super grateful for you. Kelly and Oscar, we're going to keep sharing stuff throughout the week, hoping people go and rent More Than Miyagi. But come back next time you make a movie, and maybe we can make something together someday. So thanks so much for being with us.
All right.
Yeah, I want to. Can we say thank you to Evelyn too? I thought she was incredibly brave and courageous and generous for sharing the photos and her time and everything. So if she's watching, thank you so much for sharing your husband's story.
I'm sure that she knows that.
Thank you.
Please do.
Really quick, like she was. You know, when you do a documentary like this, it's like she literally opened up her home and said, here's his office, here's my house, here's all the pictures, here's like tell a story. And she was so just open arms about everything.
I love it. I love when she went and kissed his, or not, she didn't kiss. She put she touched his star and put a rose on there. That was a really, really sweet moment, his walk of fame. So great. Go rent it. Now available anywhere you can rent movies on demand. All right. We always end our show every week with brave stories change the world.
And you are the story. Goodbye, everybody.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at bravemaker.org. Like, subscribe, and share. To become a monthly donor, text the word Bravemaker to 44321 or go to bravemaker.com/donate. Thanks for tuning in.